On this episode of Ask Christian Counseling Associates, join us for a discussion with Alex Hoffman, Vice President of the Foundation for Christian Counseling and Intake Supervisor for CCA, and Dr. Tom Weil, Clinical Director of CCA's Western Pennsylvania Division. Together we explore Seeds of Freedom, our groundbreaking international mission in Liberia, West Africa. Welcome, guys.
Good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here.
You know, Alex, I want to, welcome you, your debut on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
It's your first one.
First time on this side of the cameras, so.
Yeah, so Alex has been here for years.
Yeah.
He used to be part of the production.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would sit in on probably 20 or 30 podcasts, but first time guest.
Yeah, first time guest.
So
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah.
I don't know who gets that joke, but somebody out there will.
and Tom, of course, welcome back. A regular on the show here. So so you'll know Tom Weil. He is the clinical director, Dr. Tom Weil.
That's a thing.
Yeah, recently a doctoral graduate of Liberty University, a university that we love. And Alex, you're a doctoral student there.
Yes.
So why don't you tell the folks a little bit more about yourself, just to help people know where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I've worked at Christian Counseling Associates for 7 years, and I'm currently a licensed associate professional counselor, and I've now moved to Greensburg. I'm going to be at the main office here. And I'm also a PhD student at Liberty. Just started like semester, 2 semesters in. And I'm also the vice president of the Foundation for Christian Counseling. I help with a take point on the Liberia project that we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. So those are all the things I do. And then I'm the intake supervisor, and I help out or manage things administratively at CCA as well.
You manage the clinical call center.
Yeah.
As intake supervisor. So you're involved in a lot of things organizationally and clinically. Tom, you are too. Mm-hmm. So this is great to have you both here, and that's a tradition here at CCA. You get to do a lot of things.
Such a nice way.
Well, sometimes if we weren't laughing, we'd be crying. But no, it's really one of the great things that. Academia focuses you like really precisely on some things in clinical counseling, and to speak of Liberty, that's on a foundationally Christian basis. So we really value Liberty University. And when people are doing their masters and doctorates, they think about counseling in a certain way. But CCA really introduces you to the world of what you can be in Christian counseling. And that's one of the things that we're talking about today is, going beyond the office, the Seeds of Freedom program in Liberia, which now we've been involved with for about, I should know the day that we started that, but it's been about 7 or 8 years of that program. And it began with an invitation from Reverend Dr. Jerry Kula. And I'd known him for years. We had worked together in the Methodist Church on an international level since 2008. And then he eventually invited CCA to train pastoral counselors in their university. And the outgrowth there is eventually, Alex, you started to go over, and we had David Collins, and to bring us up to Seeds of Freedom. We really recognize that counseling in the way that it's done in the United States is not going to work in Africa. The need is different. And so we had to develop, how to meet that need. And we do that uniquely as faith-based mental health professionals and mission-oriented. That we could really provide something that's set apart. And working for the foundation, our model is always in a sustainable way.
Yes.
You know, what does sustainable mean, folks? Well, a lot of the foundation's funding is from our donors, individuals. We also have churches that give us support, and community foundations will give us grants. You know, we'll talk more about that today. You know, but we use that for the beginning of a startup of programs. You know, and from there, we find ways for that to become, how should I say, bring in revenue. And that revenue then sustains the program, and donor funding can be used for new programs and more startups. So we've really been able to do a lot with what people donate to help more and more people. And Tom, you eventually became part of the Seeds of Freedom program, as you are an expert in farming, as well as being a counselor. You know, so that brings, you know, maybe
no degree
this
in
up.
that one, though.
So, you know, let's talk about this mission, and maybe on a more personal way, Alex. You know, tell us how Seeds of Freedom began, and what inspired Christian Counseling Associates to engage what was going on in Liberia in this way.
So from my perspective, I think that I had gone over many years after the project had started. So I took my first visit 2 years ago when we did a intensive at the university, and we had started our counseling project there. And what we started to notice is the disconnect in practical application in the community. And we have Western ideas of what counseling looks like in our context, like being in an office. Our society has built to the point where those things are possible. You can come to your insurance company. We'll make sure that you can get to a session, and that can be facilitated in an office. But that is not the case in third world countries. So just taking that model and putting it into that context just was not as successful as we wanted it to be. So
I think like people initially think of, we're doing counseling in a foreign country.
Yeah.
We're just going to set up an office just like we do in a church here. People are going to make appointments and come. Yeah. That wasn't the way it was at all.
No. So we started to notice that, and we noticed that people, they want the people in Liberia, that they want things to improve, and they wanted education as a way to do that. But there was not a practical application of that knowledge, using that education, and we were like thinking, like, what is happening here? Like, where can this start? And we had a meeting with the vocational school, and we were like, well, we have higher education, then we have vocational. So
to tell the story, I was teaching a class one day, and Alex and Kenneth Jackson, who is employed by CCA through foundation funding, is taking Alex to do some public relations within the community to hopefully set up counseling. Yeah. And so you said, let's go out to this vocational place.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts.
Thinking about things need to be built. Like they were talking about, like things aren't built. There's not a lot of infrastructure there. So I'm like, well, we should meet and partner with the vocational school where there's welders, there's builders, things of that nature. And what the director of that school had told me is like we train all these people every year. People know how to do this work, but there's no jobs. There's no jobs. There's no welding happening. There's no building of things. And
I just take this, like, viewing this from a person here would figure, okay, here's a country that is one of the most poorest countries in the world, and that statistically is true. Why would there not be jobs for people to have and do things, like whatever it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what would you, how would you explain that?
People have to consume services or goods to have jobs. If there's no money, then there's no goods or services. So they can produce, they can be trained as a welder to go work in, there's no place for them to work. There's no building. There's nobody who's buying cars. There's nobody who's building new construction. There's no mechanic jobs because nobody has anything for them to work on. The whole system, they have a lot of resources and a lot of opportunities, and they're getting some of the education, but there's no system to pump it into. There's no infrastructure, either economic or physical, that by which they can apply this.
Yeah.
So in a way, what you're saying is that all of these places in this cycle of infrastructure takes investment, but there's no money.
Right.
So people don't have the kind of investment to invest in things. And so if I was a plumber from this vocational school, I would have to start a plumbing business that would take tens of thousands of dollars to start up. You have to buy material goods and tools and a car. And people don't have $40,000 to do that. They're more caught up in, I have to eat day to day.
Yeah.
And if I don't get that, I'm going to starve before I can get this plumbing thing on the road. So people exit these schools and they don't ever start up anything.
And it was an opportunity for us to reflect on, our country, our society, what has, historically gotten us, to being, where we're at as a country. And we in America are the largest exporter of agricultural goods in the world. We have more farms.
So you're making a point here of you can't help but think, from the United States, what do we have of value that we can offer a community that is struggling? And it's not going to primarily be mental health and drug and alcohol treatment, which was what we were prepared to do. You're coming up with the idea when you're going to this vocational school, it's agriculture. Like one of the things that that a country has to have is a base of agriculture. Tom, talk about this, being a farmer. Because I think sometimes, because I'm not initially a farmer, I'm getting to know this, being a part of this project. What do we need to know about the importance of farming to a country?
Well, if you're going to build a country on anything, it has to start with a good agricultural program. Even if you look at very well-developed places like in Europe and things like that, they've been able to import lots of things, but at the same time, they still have, the farms. As we fly over and spend our extra 24 hours in Belgium, we can still see that that's still a part of the thriving economy that exists there. Even if you're walking in downtown where there's not a grass or a tree anywhere, they still have the agriculture that supports it. Because one of the basic things that people need to do is to eat. And if you look at the history of this,
need.
If you look at the history of this country, I believe it was World War I, they had the statement, wheat will win the war. And the fact that, and like, well, what are you going to do, shoot wheat seed at people? Like, no, that's not what they were doing. But that was the agricultural basis that enabled us to build our economy and to win World War I. And then, you have to learn how to farm, and then at the Dust Bowl and all those other types of things. And so there's the opportunity that we can go over there and to say, like, look at what we did well, copy that. Look at what we didn't do well, and don't do that. Learn from that. So
if you're thinking about how a country can get started from the ground up, if we're saying, here is a very poor country, what do we need to do first? The obvious thing is grow food and get really good at it. There's always going to be a need, and that will generate income and wealth that other projects can start off of. So it might not be the initial thought here of like what I would do if I wanted to improve somebody's situation, but when you're in a place of poverty, you have to think that way. And at one time, that's the way we were. That's the first thing that we were doing well that got us to here. Okay.
And it was challenging to figure that out, because we're talking about, like, at the base of any successful society is, agriculture and manufacturing. So if you have a plumbing business, you can't. There's no money in the economy to go around and do plumbing if there's not that base there. And it was shared with us from Emmett, who's on the farm, who Alan
Emmett Hunter,
our farmer,
Alan Pay,
and Kenneth
Jackson.
They import
85%
of the rice. It's millions of dollars. Like, I think, was it 400 million?
I can't remember. I remember the percentage
of rice to feed a country of 5 million people. So if you take any funds and you say, I'm going to invest, I'm going to use this in Liberia to buy somebody food, that $100 that you spend immediately leaves the country and goes to where they're importing it from, India, China.
Right, the money goes to somewhere else. So if you think about this, and I'm not an economist, but that comes from tax or subsidies from some other company. Now they just give that away to get this rice, when the rice could be coming from the country, and then people would be earning money and selling it, and that money would all stay in the country.
Yes. Right.
And that has to happen someday.
Yeah.
If Liberia is going to have an upsurge and an improved quality of life. And so let's just bring about an obvious thing, that in missions, so this is a missionary project. Technically, and I don't think that the general public thinks of us as missionaries, but we are missionaries to Liberia. We want the church to know that we're doing international missionary work, and we do the same kind of work in the United States. It's just completely different. See other podcasts for that, but for this, a lot of times in missions, people are doing very worthwhile things, like building houses, providing medical care, and providing material goods, food, clothing. But there's always been a problem with missionary work, that we can provide the material goods, but eventually that runs out. And you have to continue to fund and to fuel that. And it's really not going to sustainably bring an improved quality of life.
Right.
The people will remain in poverty. And over the years that I've been in the church, I've seen a lot of areas continue to remain in poverty despite excellent missionary work. And that's where this project sort of redefines our thinking, because I think that we went in, with a regular missionary mindset. Like, we want to help, we want to do some good. That's what we're being asked to do. We really needed to rethink, though, what would really break the cycle of poverty. And this is what we come up with is, well, let's return to the basics of how quality of life is built.
And
farming.
And I think that with Western civilization and wanting to apply those values, like in that context, like through through like academics who go over there, there's a danger of looking at poverty in a way that's like, well, these people have and these people do not. So you can kind of equal that out. But there's disregard. It's like, we all have, people don't think about it, we all started at a state of poverty, like we did, like 400, 500 years ago. And
the Pilgrims didn't have it so good.
Yeah, the Pilgrims did not have it good. I'm glad I'm not a Pilgrim.
Mayflower didn't work out well.
And it's what things did they have to do to get to where to move forward, and we can use those types of ideas in different contexts.
Yeah, and we'll be in different phases of this project. So maybe some people are out there to say, thinking, I know nothing about farming. How am I going to be of help? Well, at this point, we'll let you know. But when you take care of these basic needs, it leads to other things. So eventually, the people who are getting jobs on the farm, becoming farmers, will need to know how to build. They'll need to know how to have plumbing. They'll need to know how to build roadways. And those are the projects that we would like to be involved in, not to provide all of that or be responsible, but to provide the infrastructure and the training so that 20 years from now, the experts in farming are in Liberia. The builders, are building their own businesses. And instead of us saying, hey, we built 1,000, houses in the last 10 years, we can say, we taught 1,000 people how to build houses in Liberia and provided a structure that helped them build 100,000 houses. We didn't do it, they did it.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Now, when I talk about things, and I have dreams, it's multi-generational. So this means this could take some time. What we're focused on is we have experts, Tom, who know how to build farms. And we're at CCA, and Tom, I don't know if you know this part of the story, but let me test this out, because I think you're the leadership of this project. So people watching or listening today, Tom Weil, Alex Hoffman are leading the Seeds of Freedom program in Liberia. So it's good that we could talk about this. But Tom, when people hear that CCA is involved internationally, they might wonder, how does counseling connect to farming and rehabilitation in Africa? What are your thoughts? Because that's what I want to clarify for the folks.
Yeah. So two good ways to answer that question. One is, from a mental health standpoint, we can talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What is the bottom rung? We could go do excellent mental health work with somebody. If they're caught up in whatever addiction that they're struggling with, we release them back into poverty, they're not going to make it. They're just not. Yeah. They don't have, I'm starving, but I can have access to drug. And it doesn't even make sense, right? But we just can see it and observe it over in Liberia that, we don't have access to the basic necessities of life, but drugs are more available than those basic necessities.
So it wouldn't make sense to bring a psychiatrist right now to Africa.
Gosh, no, that'd be pointless. Absolutely pointless.
It could be harmful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would actually, yeah. Oh gosh, methadone clinics. Yeah, would not work. Yeah, that'd be. I was just I didn't even think about a methadone clinic, but that would just be a disaster for Liberia. It wouldn't be a disaster. It'd just be worthless. Yeah. And so so you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You release them out into they're struggling just to make it literally from day to day. Yeah. And when you think about Liberia, it is, you're driving, it is forest and bush and things like that for miles and miles and miles. You get to the cities, and then you find your densely populated areas, and then you can see definitely the poor are very present there in those ways. And even in the rural places, you see, I remember the first time we were over there, I was like, what do they have those jugs of? Is that honey? And they're like, no, they're reselling gasoline. And I'm like...
They're selling gasoline in jugs.
And like mason jars. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, and I'm doing the math like to see what they're buying this for and then reselling it. I'm going like, that's like no profit whatsoever. Yeah. Like this is a bad deal. It was like, literally like they got to be making like $1 or $2 a day. But this is the type of avenues that the people are there. They're motivated to try to move themselves up, but they don't have it. So what's a great way if I want to figure out how to get out of poverty? Oh, look, I can get involved with drugs and trying to see that those things go around. Yeah. And to provide an avenue by which they have the ability to, and here's the other big thing, right? One, you look at Maslow, but second of all, you look at meaningful work. The ability to not be drawn into the hedonistic pleasures of drugs and alcohol, and to turn into a deeper, richer, one of my favorite words, eudaimonic, senses of well-being. Eudaimonic.
Eudaimonic?
Yeah, you made me spell that in another podcast. Go back and look it up.
I somehow don't remember that.
What's that mean? What is that?
It had such a... It's all the words I just used around it. Eudaimonic. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, and I've seen it spelled a couple of different ways. I would not venture to spell that again. But... It's just a deeper, richer sense of life that is not. Sometimes they'll even put it at like you've got hedonism over here, which is your fun, your ice creams, drug, alcohol, trips, fun, and like the old school like type of meaningful life of how like I went and I spent a good day's worth of work, whether that be on the farm or in the factory or whatever. I contributed to society.
Yeah, so you're bringing together two important things, and maybe hopefully I can tie this together, but that is in our counseling work anywhere that we would go. It's universal that there's easy things that you can have in this life,
right?
Even like in poverty-stricken areas. And you'd be surprised at how you see the same thing all over the world, just happening in different ways. But people want to go for the quick thing because they're in pain. They want to alleviate it, but it doesn't deliver. It doesn't satisfy truly. And so people are need in mind and heart to connect with something of deeper meaning. And what people will learn ultimately, and it is the church's responsibility to lift this up and glorify God in it, that people will find deeper and ultimate meaning when they become completely dependent upon God and His way. And so you see people who are searching in many different ways. All of these other things are counterfeit. And so in Africa, specifically in Liberia, like one of the things you'll notice, you talked about the jugs of gasoline, that there's these motorcycles, and then there's something I never saw until I got to Africa, which was the KK. And the KK, I wish I could show a picture of this, but I don't know how to spell KK. But a KK, they're popular in I guess Asia, India. They're not here. They're little carts, motorized carts. They're almost like trikes. But they're smaller and they have roofs on them.
Yeah. And
some of them are quite elaborate.
It's like a taxi and a trike got married, and this is the offspring.
Right, and the traffic in African cities is so congested. In a lot of the cities, it's amazing, they don't have traffic lights, but they get along probably better than we do in traffic just by communicating with each other through the cars. So you can't even imagine it. You have to see it. But the motorcycles and KKs are ways that young people will earn a living. It's very easy. If you can generate the kind of income to buy a motorcycle, then you can take people around places. And the lifestyle really, though, becomes like what you're doing while you're in this work is you're using drugs to sort of zoom away the day. Like you're having fun driving around, listening to music, meeting people. And it's just part of the culture that you become. A lot of these drivers become addicted to drugs and alcohol. And that's the life that they are leading. It's what the culture is pointing to as easy and immediate, and these things that are more deeply meaningful that you could, generate a way out of poverty through these meeting basic level needs through farming. Yeah, and something it's pretty complicated to get started.
Right.
There's no easy way to get there. And what's really sad is, there's forces that are, keeping things the way that they are, that it's almost impossible. So how does counseling come together? Well, we immediately can recognize that people are in the throes of addiction. And that was one of the things that we asked for, is to say, okay, if we're going to train pastoral counselors, show us where we're going to see people who are their lives are really falling apart. And they took us to the real poverty-stricken places, and one was Logantown. We've talked about this a lot, but remind our listeners that this was a village, within the city of hundreds of people who were in the drug industry, and there was prostitution, and there was, what you'd basically do is beg every day, or the privileged people would have a motorcycle or a KK that they could take around to generate funds, and they would be at the top. And they were basically, I'd say 80% of the town was addicted on some type of drug, and really hopeless. And if they are going, and there's so much of that going on, where people have become in bondage to something in the search for ultimate meaning, have, taken this opportunity and found out eventually that it was a trap, but they're trapped. And that becomes our expertise, is going to find these people. And, we came up with the ideas that because when we were in Logantown, they're saying, we know that you're counselors. Take us to your rehabilitation. They know about that. And they have a system like that, but there's no money to pay for it. But, if we could take these individuals, and their lives are just as worthwhile as people who are making it, they would go with us and learn farming, and help us establish that. And the end product would be to show them how to find meaning, true meaning in their life. So this would be a faith-based farming project that would yield at the end of it somebody who would be able to establish their own business. Or work for another business knowing the trade of something that could truly be valuable in a place like Liberia that's stricken with poverty, that would lift it out of poverty. And we, are very good at running an operation like that in the United States. We can bring that, and we can bring together the counseling, because it's not like, with people who are struggling like that, they're going to be like, oh yeah, let me just put together 40 hours of work a week and let's do it. Day 2 is going to be, I'm confused and I'm still stuck in this place. And we would train people around that to get people out of poverty, in the emotional sense that they're in, as we give them the material and the functional ways of getting out of it. And so there's just a lot of opportunity there, and it really works well. But it, to me, and that's where counseling and farming come together. It's what we have to do. We would like to train missionaries from the United States on how to bring those kind of things together. Because we could go over and do the farm, like we could send you over, and you could get together, 100 experts and do this great farm. But, we want to counsel people to rehabilitate people and show them how to do it, and produce that kind of infrastructure as missionaries, and train other people to start to think that way. And I'm not saying, I think there's a lot of great missionary projects that are happening that way, but there could be exponentially more, because and Alex, maybe, and I think that we have to be sensitive about this, because this is where we bring the best of the Western mindset, to a project that, in the last 200 years, we've been able to advance from Plymouth Rock to building skyscrapers. And that has increased our quality of life. And that innovation, that starts with, how do you build a farm from the ground up? And value literally that in heart and mind, literally, and sustain that. That's the first part of getting to where we've gotten in the United States. And that's what we just want to bring, that one piece, and we know that eventually we can rehabilitate the heart and the mind, and also produce food that will produce income and produce jobs,
and meaningful work.
That's
the part that I think is so huge. Have you ever heard the Rat City study done in the 60s?
No.
So there's this, and I can't remember what the original researchers' names were, but they did the stereotypical study where they would put the rats in a cage and they would have 2 bottles of water. One was laced with drugs and one was just water. And the rats would always just be in the cage. They would drink from the bottle that had the drugs in it, and they would die in a very short time period. And they were like, well, yeah, if you're just hanging out in the cage with nothing to do, who wouldn't want the drugs? So they did this other study where they put rats in a thing where they gave them cheese and an exercise wheel and all of this other stuff to do, and they all didn't drink the drug water and die. They would just drink the regular water.
Wow.
And that's what I think about Liberia. Like, well, yeah, you got these people who they want to do things. They know that there's something more to do, but they're kind of stuck in that cage without any access to meaningful work whatsoever.
Christian Counseling Associates is ready to serve you, providing a wide range of counseling services. Christian counseling is accessible to everyone. We serve both Christians who want their faith integrated into the counseling process, or those holding any beliefs or attitudes towards spirituality. With many years of counseling experience, our counselors are professional, licensed, highly trained, and rooted in their commitment to their church and communities. CCA is able to provide a full range of clinical counseling services. For more information, visit our website at www.ccawpa.com.
And so, like, if we ask donors to give us $100,000 a year to build rehabilitation infrastructure that rehabilitated people from drugs and then sent them back to be motorcycle and KK drivers, they would just end up addicted again. So in this place, it has to be, creating some kind of infrastructure like this. And a lot of times that might be, people from the church might be like, man, I don't know if we can do all of that.
Right.
And so the idea here is, that's part of what CCA has become. We're an organization that has resources. In this case, we have experts of many things. So it just so happens that we're all in the church and we have this expertise. We can put this in place, and any church can be a part of this, and it starts by supporting it. And then later on, we can bring people on board from the churches to show them the system and be really good.
And it really changes kind of how we think about the church's role in this context, because the church is strong in Liberia. A lot of churches are there, and the problem isn't what's going on essentially as a people attending church, but it's the structure where Christianity can flourish, and building those structures where people can support the church, and the church needs to care about building those things where people can engage it, building that part of the maze or whatever where there can be meaningful work that can happens outside of the church walls, and it should be fronted by the church. And that's what Alan Pei was sharing with me and Tom last time we were there.
Tell us about that.
That the church needs to be out there building these types of structures. And the church, especially in our culture in America, we have all of these things.
So the church doesn't need to do that here.
We're very individualized. Like we're trying to, you need to we're struggling to get people to attend church and get people to make their lives about being at church. And those structures in our society have already been built.
Like farming structures,
those types of things. So the church needs to care about that, and I wanted to tie this into our homeless mission that we have.
So here in the United States, we install intensive outpatient programming that's faith-based in homeless shelters. And in the United States, there's homeless shelters in every community.
Yeah, and what's unique about the program that we have at Adams Rescue Mission and why we partnered with them, because it wasn't just about giving some sort of treatment where we can track substance use over 12 sessions and say, okay, well those symptoms have reduced, therefore you're good. And it wasn't that okay, this person's homeless, let's give them a house and then okay, successful. They're no longer homeless.
And that's what the system wants to do.
That's
here,
what the system
give you
wants
material
to do.
goods.
Yeah,
it would make sense to a person like, if you don't have a house, if we gave you a house, everything would be okay. But if you take somebody from a homeless shelter and you don't address what is in mind and heart, and you just put them in a house, the house will eventually not be sustainable.
Yeah.
Because we will do dysfunctional things in our lives, including not being able to manage the house. Yeah. So you have to deal with both. And Adam's Rescue Mission is our first successful partnership, and that is in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. A wonderful partnership, So we've discovered things like that though through doing that work.
And you look at all the studies on homelessness in America, poverty in America. It's like if we can get to the end of this study and we can our scoring on anxiety is down, our scoring on the person was homeless and now they're housed, well then the study was a success. But the problem persists. And Adam's Rescue Mission is unique because it's the church taking those people from a position of homelessness to getting them to the point where they can be back in the community as full participating members in society and the church. So taking that the full way, and there's things that happen outside of the counseling session to make that happen. There's that structure there that Adam's Rescue Mission has that includes the counseling that we do, but it's a holistic approach to bring people forward to move the needle.
So believe it or not, like sometimes we come into in our experience we've introduced our services to homeless shelters, and the leaders there don't want it. They don't want treatment. They just want to get somebody into a house. And they're almost like why would you do that? Is the question. But there is this revolving door that you see of people who are going out and coming back in for their whole lives. And it happens sort of to the periphery of society. These shelters, you don't see them. And a lot of them, like if you were looking straight at them, and this is part of how they do a really nice job, like you wouldn't notice it's a homeless shelter. And I think that they do that honestly because the neighborhood would be like, we don't want this here.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have a sense of how terrible the problem is deep down.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a revolving door though, and people don't see it. But we have studied that,
and that's how we've trained ourselves in universities to think about problems. It's like, well, if somebody's hungry, let's get them some food, and that'll solve that. If somebody doesn't have a house, we'll get them a house, and we'll call that success. And then what we're seeing, over time, and same thing with drug addiction places. Or if we can get them in the place and then they're not using anymore when we discharge them, then that is success. And the problem persists over decades in America.
So let me bring up a point here. Like it is doing it that way gives us successful studies, which makes us feel good, and having those kind of simple solutions that we say, oh, that was a success. In the short term, it makes us feel good. And a lot of times we can get caught up in that being the helpers. Like, I like to feel good, so I don't see this long-ranging problem. But now what we're talking about is understanding the human need, truly. And that is, to look deeper. It's not easy. Because what we came up with after 7 or 8 years of involvement is that there's more to this, and more investment is needed, and this is going to take some time and some hard work. But you get back to this point to summarize what you're saying, Alex, that if we are going to, preach to our communities that God has changed our heart, that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, my heart has been changed, and that drives me to love others. I can't say that I really care about people if I don't take that deeper look.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm just looking to feel good. I'm saying it's easy for us to get caught up into that, and I think in many ways we're encouraged not to take that deeper look, but that's what happened with us. And that's where we want to build missionary infrastructure, is to take these kind of deeper looks. That's the opportunity we've been given here. And that's what Liberia has helped us learn.
Yeah.
The people like Kenneth Jackson, Alan Pay, they preached us about that.
Yeah. And I'd say after a year, so we bought the farm 2 years ago, getting all the logistic things taken care of, clearing the land. We've cultivated, I think, 20 of the 40 acres, and we've you have to. It's straight forest there, so it is just like thick forest. Like
you want to take a look at this project, or are we at the place where we want
to the pictures? Do we want to do that?
Okay.
I could.
We just have a series of pictures here that
they're not organized. It's
Alex and Tom had taken. It's one of the
that one doesn't count.
Yeah,
tell us what these are, guys.
Yeah, so we got we landed our connecting flight in Belgium, and it was like 6 a.m. We had been awake, and I was like, okay, I'm going to stay awake until I get on this plane at 12, and then I'm going to sleep the rest of the way on the 10-hour flight to Liberia. 5 minutes before we got on, they were like, your flight's canceled. You have to stay in Belgium for a day. Yes. So we were in Belgium.
We walked around, yes.
And we walked around. So this is I don't know. We didn't really look up who any of these people are, so we have no.
I think we did, but my memory.
Yeah.
Tom, do you know who the person on the horse is?
For these are, but that was cool.
We Googled it when we were there. I don't remember who that.
What is the language that's spoken in Belgium?
And that was a surprise too. It's French. So we were lost.
Yes.
And so this was like the town square in Brussels.
Yes.
So we went down and saw some statues.
So you really one of the things that getting to Africa is difficult.
Yes.
Airfare is going to be an expensive item because you'll have to fly in a very circumvented way. And so oftentimes you can get stuck in a layover. You didn't set out to go to Belgium, but you had a whole day, either stay in the hotel or you could walk around.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
What's this place?
That's the town square. It was just they just have some really, really beautiful architecture in there.
Belgium's a beautiful place.
It is.
Yeah. Huh. So you're going across the town.
There's the free Palestine rally.
Free Palestine rally
we were like,
in Belgium.
Don't go that way. Go that way.
No, we're in Africa.
And so, you eventually make it to 24 hours later to Africa. Yeah. What's this?
So this is just like some shops along the road. So I took a picture of that.
So if we were to zero in on this, you're from the car. This is the infrastructure. This is the Walmart of Liberia. If you wanted to go and buy shoes, this is what's available.
Yeah.
And this person has gotten it together to buy or obtain about 15 pairs of shoes.
Yeah, so they're reselling stuff that they already have to each other through these kind of shops. That's what they're doing with gas, buying gas and upcharging it for smaller amounts.
So the yield that is able to be, from a full day's work is very little. The potential is very little. And, when this goes on for years and years, that is part of the mindset, where, you could do this and there's a meaningless quality of it, that like in the modern world where infrastructure could be built that could really generate, sales. This is an option, or you can ride around in a motorcycle and a KK and maybe work twice as much, or so those drug infested lines of work become very attractive. This person's trying to do it the right way. I
was thinking about the economy over there. Have you guys ever been to Rogers, Ohio, for the flea market?
We've not.
You must go. You should be on your bucket list. It will remind you very much of
okay.
that part of it. I don't know if any listeners, there have people been to Rogers, Ohio.
So Rogers, Ohio, what's going on there?
It's like a huge flea market where so there's a lot of produce that's in there as well too, but outside of it, it's just people selling things that aren't quite antique worthy, and you can buy a lot of used pitchforks and old lawnmowers and stuff like that there. That's kind of like what is all over Liberia. It is like Rogers Flea Market.
So we're doing that for a hobby here.
Yeah, they're
of
doing
us,
it.
They're doing it to try to survive and make a living.
I mean, Rogers, Ohio is a pretty poor version of Ohio, but
So maybe some of us here are doing that too.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. If you ever walk through, you're going like, I don't know how anybody's making any money doing this whatsoever. Yeah. But you get that same feeling when you're in Liberia. You're like, you've got to be like doing all this type of stuff, and like so few people buying all of the work, and the profit margins are very small on this.
Yeah. So that's a picture of that. Just another picture of the roadway.
Yeah,
a lot of
these pictures are
a lot of the infrastructure you can see. A lot of dirt roads.
Yeah.
So
especially going out of the airport, the first day we had, that was the worst road I've ever been on my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah, the road out of the airport has been being built forever.
Okay, so this is the
good
farm.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's the farm. So if you look on the bottom part there, that is where the rice is planted, and then over on the hillside is another 10 acres, and that is where the cassava is planted as well. And from these pictures, it does not look very big. Like in my mind, like when we were talking about weeding and clearing the land, it was like, well, why can't we get this done faster, that sort of thing, and how much is this going to cost? Like we're like, wow, that seems like a lot. Then you go there and you imagine that this was thick forest that they had like cut down and burned, and how made this into a workable farm. And what I had learned on this trip from Tom and the other expert farmers is that you cannot really just slash and burn and then have like a farm. This first planting is not going to be as not yield as much as like the next planting, because over time the ground becomes more fertile, right? Would that be the word?
Yeah. So if you manage the nutrients right and you get a good crop rotation, you'll see a lot of things. Particularly speaking, if you're burning, it destroys the nitrogen in the soil. Yeah. Which they're fertilizer over there. They have access to it, but it's not in abundance. They were telling us the nitrogen, the ammonia that they were spreading, they just take it by hand and broadcast it, which was mind blowing to me. That's their measure of how they're doing that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different kinds of techniques that you want to bring to this that'll happen as part of building this infrastructure that we will teach and then develop ways to provide people to adopt those types of practices that will make them more productive. So it moves somebody like in our the last, from that 15 shoe sales operation to something that is efficient and really able to sustain income. And that people would gravitate to. So, and Alex, what you're talking about here is that this farm is 1 year old.
Yeah, and
so it doesn't look like what you're going to see on Tom's farm.
Right.
You manage an operation of about 400 acres, is it?
Yeah.
And when you go there, it's beautiful, rows of corn, and buildings and machinery, and you're like, wow, this is how it starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And here's another thing: you don't see the counseling chairs anywhere. So
I will say the beauty of this project is, and Emmett, who's on the ground there, is very specific and intentional about the relationship he has with the people who's working there.
Yeah.
And really, that's where the counseling session has. So, but if you think about this, like where did counseling used to take place? Well, it was in people's garages while they're working on their cars together. And, we've gotten to this point within Western culture that, what do? We don't sit around in couches or in people's garage and have conversations. We're jumping around from basketball to hockey to baseball to whatever, and those conversations don't happen. So here in the African culture, this is where the counseling happens. And this is where, yes, here we need to have the professionalism and things like that, but you also see like some of the counseling organizations, and particularly within drug and alcohol, that like, oh no, you're going to do things. And this is why people get out more, and you have the rehab facilities that are like in ranches and the equine therapy. And
Some
things along
highly
those
specialized
lines.
things.
Well, they're going through there's no compartmentalization over here. And that's what I really like about this. It's not like, all right, I walked out of the counseling office, back to your other parts of life. Did he give us homework? You know, I don't remember what homework we got from last week. Like, no, like this is just so much. It's part of life. It's not as easy to compartmentalize that. And there's this natural outflowing to the rest of life that I get really excited about this project. And I think that it'll have a lot of long-term benefits.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so than here in America.
Yeah.
I share that excitement. I want to get people excited about this. And this is the thing, is that this is just how it starts. So this has to come first in a poverty-stricken area, rather than we're generating all of these treatment cases and counseling relationships. You know, the next part of this, in my mind, and this is what I've been told, is that, you know, we will level this and process it. You know, so you see all kinds of trees out on.
I wouldn't say leveling; it's clearing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be.
There's a technique for it, yes. Clearing.
So this is up on the hill here.
Yeah.
So what you'll see is that as they're clearing, they'll plant rice. They'll take a crop of rice off of that, and they're going to follow it up with the cassava. So this is not in the swamp. This is, I think this is what they're going to start harvesting here just next month is what Ken said.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
yeah, next month.
So this is, correct me, if I'm wrong, there's 40 acres on this initial plant. There's room for expansion, and it will need to be expanded. But in this initial project, we've cultivated about 20 acres, and we're working on cultivating the other 20. And what this is costing right now, and really we're limited by funds, and that's one of the things we'll talk about here in a couple minutes, that if we had support, you know, for this project, we could expand it more rapidly. But we're going to stay within our confines of our budget. So we're going to expend about $40,000 by the end of the year, and we did that last year too. So this is a pretty significant investment for us. I know that you know, some of our listeners could write one check and pay for the investment of this for this year, and we could start to rapidly expand this. We have the means to do that. We're just limited by funds. And what will happen is we have to get the agricultural piece in there first. And like what you're talking about, we'll invite people in, and that's where the initial counseling comes, is like, say, come be a part of this and let us show you how this can work better than what the culture is drawing you towards. And then, like, maybe a third step is then going back to Logantown and saying, we have something for you. And we have, and as this starts to produce crops, we're not going back to our donors and say, you know, we need double the amount because we expanded this.
Yeah.
We can keep it at a certain level because now this is generating income. We're paying people there, producing jobs, and paying for the continued investment and scaling. Where people begin to say, like, wow, this is how you do it. And we're showing them that. And then, you know, we're producing people who can then either work for this project or go off and start their own project. And this starts to proliferate all around the country.
One of the exciting things I saw while we were going in there, in and out of this project, is we saw other tracts of land that were being cleared. And Alex and I were like, what's up with that? You know, it's over there, and they're doing that a little bit differently, and they're like, that's not in the farm. I'm like, oh no, after we started this place, okay, this is where farming will work, and you have other people who are independently going and buying and starting farms because we started. And that just the belief system that this is something that is doable and sustainable. It's not all on our backs. You know, like, we don't have to go out and do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. No, it's just we do it and we pick it up, and then it will spread, and then you'll get that idea of the agricultural infrastructure. We can even see it along this road that people are just doing it because they just believe that it's possible. Because when you're in poverty for that long, you're just like, well, what's the point? You're going and doing a direct assault on hopelessness. And you're doing this because now that they will have this rice, they've harvested the seed rice that is planted in the swamp. They're also planting up here, and they're going to have the cassava like January, February. That'll stuff will start going to market, and like this will build. And you know, there is this part in American farming where everybody's like, "All right, be patient. It's harvest time up here." And everyone's like, all right, we're fine. And it takes you driving. You see, like, neighbors got their combine now. All right, let's go. You know, like we're behind. The neighbor's a whole day ahead of us. Let's go. And so you see a little bit of that dynamic down here, like to a much watered down perspective. But they're just
that's how it starts.
Yeah, now it's time. All right, let's go. And my neighbor's going out here, and he's ripping down this you know, these trees, and they're putting in crops, and they're building sustainability. We can do this. Like, it's time. Let's go ahead and let's get our hands dirty and let's go.
That's real farming, folks. You know, and I would say that's a true story that, you know, we were preached to by the people of Liberia. We were, you know, and we learned, you know, how to be a more effective missionary. And so now, you know, someday, you know, this community can say, you know, a bunch of missionaries came, you know, from America, and we know that they cared about us. And like, while we're doing this work, people are like watching what we're doing, and they're like, man, we should be doing that too.
Yeah.
Well, just in this community, over the last, I would say, since we really started doing the harvest thing like this past year, we've employed over 200 people in that city. Wow. So they're coming down, you know, being able to work, and you know, Emmett and Kenneth are both pastors. Like, they are discipling these the people that come and work there, and they're coming down saying, like, before where it was, you know, maybe you're you know, asking for things, or like trying to figure out, you know, how to sell shoes, but now they're earning money, they're working, and Emmett's saying, we got to keep this going. Like, they're coming, young people are coming down, they're earning money, they're using it to go pay for their college, like pay for things that they need, that sort of thing. And I really think, like, if you look at the guy with the shoes, like what they see in America is, like, you do go to a shoe store, like, because we're like post-industrial society, you could pick from 700 different pairs of shoes, but in a poverty-stricken place, you don't really need more than one pair of shoes or shoes at all. What you need is rice. You need food. Like, there's one thing that people are going to buy, is this. And what's important about this is, once we get you know, through this phase, and it's tough. Like, we're trying to navigate these logistical issues. That lower part, that 10 acres, it can yield 3 or 4 harvests a year. Like, you can farm there all year long. Once
that's significant generator.
Yeah. And if I just pause for a minute there too, you know, that has had, looking at South America from an agricultural standpoint. So the price of soybeans this year is terrible, right? To make money on soybeans, you need about $12 a bushel. I think I looked yesterday; they were at like $9.50 a bushel. People talking about, like, why are we doing this? We're losing money. And, you know, everybody will be, oh, it's the tariffs. It's not the tariffs. It's South America. South America has figured out the American recipe for farming, and they have better climates than we do. They can farm all around the year, and they have flooded the world with soybeans. That is why soybeans, I wouldn't say worthless, but I'm over-exaggerating. They're still worth $9.50 a bushel. But
what did they come? What were they when it was good?
15, 16.
Okay.
You know, and you can make money at $15, $16 a bushel on beans. Your $12, you know, it's worth doing. $9.50, people are like, this doesn't make any sense. Because your margins are so thin, so then you need to farm 1,000 acres and take different farming interventions to build up your yield.
So basically, South America's cornered the market on beans,
and they're feeling it too. You know, like that's the big issue. You know, people yell tariffs. Well, what were they last year? About the same. So no, it's not all just the tariffs. Yes, that is a part of it, and I think it has a bigger impact for other crops. But looking at what is possible over here in Liberia, they can do what South America has. And if you look at where South America has brought themselves from a sense of agriculture from being kind of a poor place and to being the absolute agricultural powerhouse that they are in Brazil, where they can do what Alex was talking about, having 4 crops a year of rice. You go from this as being nothing to 4 crops a year of rice. That 15% of rice that is, or 15% of the rice that's consumed, there's no reason they can't do 100. There's no reason they can't be an exporter of rice with the climate and the resources that they have.
Yeah.
They just need that starter and to be able to prime the pump. And you're seeing that here. Now, how long is it going to take? Where's the donor who wants to give a ton of money? Because the thing that they need to do is I don't know. Did you have a picture of a Set's rice pack in here? So what they'll do is they're going to take that out here and completely clear it away, and they're going to put different zones in there, and they're just big squares. Mm-hmm. And when they have the ability to do that, they're going to get twice the yield. Mm. So
that's labor, our next step.
Yeah, and the labor to weed is going to be way less. One of the things that drove me nuts when I was over there, and they were like, "Yeah, we know. Everything is broadcasted." I'm like, "You need rows," and they're like, "That's our next step. Like, we know that."
So you're saying broadcast that's just thrown.
They're taking their hand and they're just putting
that's the simplest method,
and then stamping it down so that there's good contact between the seed and the soil. So if you just broadcast, nothing would grow.
Okay.
The birds would come and eat everything. So they broadcast and they stamp. But when we get them the ability to set the swamp, to have everything so that they can irrigate it and go from zone to zone to zone to zone to zone, the water that they're going to be able to use is going to pretty much drown out all of the weeds. And that just rice will grow. And we make the joke every year in western Pennsylvania when it's raining like it was this spring. Nobody has any other corn planted. Nobody has any other beans planted. And we're looking around, did you plant your rice yet? Like, yeah, that's all that'll grow. And, we use the same joke every single year. Which if you're in western Pennsylvania, we've had a very significant drought. If we planted rice, it had all been dead and we got nothing.
Yeah.
But over here, like that rainy season they have, it rains 6 months out of the year. They can provide. And I think what really excites me about a project like this is the exporting of it. One of the things they'll talk about there is like when they're talking about the imported rice, it is bleached and enriched and all that other types of stuff. And they're like, we never used to get sick, but now we're eating imported rice and now it's making us sick. And the doctors there will be like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is get them on what they call country rice, and that's the rice that's grown in Liberia.
So it's pure organic.
Yeah, so things that we go here, we're paying out the nose in Whole Foods. Yeah. That's what they have over here. And that's what I think is really exciting, too, because the mentality here in America and the farmers, like we used to take a ton of pride of like, we're going to stay above the thin green line. We're making as much as it takes to feed the whole world. And here we're like, no, we just need to feed the community. And I think there's agriculture in America, we're kind of at this crossroads, all right? What are we going to do? Are we going to feed the world? Are we going to farm 1,000 acres? Because that's what it's going to take. Or are we going to feed our community and do more like labor-intensive type of things, more specialty type of things, raise our own beef and just market that and be able to handle that. The American farmer, there's no middle ground. But over here, what they're doing is they're saying like there's a large middle ground by which they can do and they can go and they can thrive, and that's the opportunity. So we need to get those funds up so that we can help them get over this hump to get to a very good sustainable part. And where does it go? I mean, do we bring in big rice combines there eventually? Maybe, or maybe they just stay at this point and they create much more nutrient dense food than we have here.
Yeah, that is dependent upon our partners there.
Yeah.
If they would like us to take it all the way, our team could do that.
Yeah.
And it'll be sustainable. And what I like and what you just described is the progression of that.
Yeah.
And from a standpoint of somebody who is farming, to see that an area like this in many ways has advantages to what we're doing here, and we could go all the way with that. It's just something we're able to do, that would lift people out of poverty, people that we've pledged to care about. and that is the kind of thing that's, that happens to us in church, that, that we are called to care, for people. And so this could happen, and, I hope our listeners are listening to this, because we'll tell you how to get involved in this, as we go along. In this stage, the involvement is support.
Right.
And we would encourage you to consider sustainable support. For as little as $5 of support, you could be part of this. And that's what we need. We have this email that introduces this podcast goes out to 25,000 people. If everybody just gave, for the price of a cup of coffee every month, we would get this project done. And we wouldn't come back to you year after year asking for the same thing. If we come back, next year, we'll show you how this has progressed. And now this is being, it's moving towards sustainability, which means it's paying for itself.
Right.
And now we're into a next stage and a next opportunity. Like someday, maybe that would be to introduce mechanized farming. And that it would be the same kind of component that would happen, folks, that people would see that there and say, well, wow, we should be doing that too.
Yeah.
And then the whole game changes. And then someday in Africa, you will see that they have the kind of infrastructure that they don't need missionaries anymore. They have that in that way, or at least what we're doing in this partnership will radically be transformed into something different. And that's our hope. That's what we would want here. That we're not 100 years down the road and saying we need to, plant the next farm.
Right.
Yeah.
We would want to be doing that ourselves. And that's what we see the opportunity with our partnerships there. So yeah. Any other, just some pictures of the farm? Here's a shelter that we've.
There's a building. There's a building on the farm where we store stuff.
That's our storage building.
A wide shot.
Wide shot of the
there.
farm.
There's the road going past it.
Road in front of the farm.
They're kind of random.
Again, a lot of dirt roads right now.
Off to the right there.
This road, I'd like to say that I've been on this road, and it goes, eventually way into the interior, which is the bush or the jungle.
Okay.
Hours and hours and hours.
It's the other way, actually. But
The other way.
off to the left, you can't see it. This is,
me
off
turn
to the
it
left.
around.
That's actually to the city. So,
Yes.
but not to be technical.
Other way, but yes.
So you know this picture well.
Yes, we do. So off to the right, you can start to see that's where the swamp is in the farm.
So our farm is off to the right of the road.
Yeah. But off to the left is where you can start to see they're clearing the other ground and they're starting farming projects on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
And like I said, that the fact that that's spreading is huge for that region.
So there's a CCA in Liberia. What is that? Like the
What do they call it? Cornerstone?
cornerstone
Marker.
Yeah. The marker to mark where the land is. Yeah.
What is that? What is that?
LIB. Yeah.
CCA Liberia.
CCALIB.
Yeah.
All right.
That's actually some of the rice on the farm.
Yeah, we ate some. It's good.
Yes.
There's some more pictures from the car. There's a Global Methodist Church.
The Global Methodist Church in Liberia. So our partners there, and I hope that all our Methodist folks are listening too, they, in cooperation with what happened here in the United States, they moved from the United Methodist Church to the Global Methodist Church, in a faithful move, to remain faithful to the gospel. And over there, like we, over here, there was, disagreements and people had to, change signs. Over there was physical fights and people thrown in jail. Like they really had to sacrifice to
Gassing of churches.
Our people over there have really, went the extra mile, to remain faithful to the gospel, to Jesus, to us. And now we have an opportunity to be faithful too. So that's what that picture to me represents. Some more pictures here.
Yeah, that's outside the church.
Yeah, there's like a building.
Well, down there too, there was a gravesite of one of the great missionaries that was over there.
Yeah,
The
well,
name escapes me. It was Miller McAllister was always on the name of that church.
yeah, maybe it was that guy.
It's George Miller. I remember.
Okay, yeah.
George.
95% sure it was George Miller.
Yeah, famous
Famous missionary.
missionary in Liberia.
Huh?
Yeah, these are just.
In many ways,
Okay, that is the border to.
is that,
What
in-
is that?
is that Guinea, or did you
Guinea-
guys
or
go to
Guinea,
Guinea?
yes. Guinea.
Yeah, that was the border.
The bridge to Guinea.
We
Bridge
went to
to Guinea.
see the bridge to Guinea. So I think if you keep going, there's more pictures.
Yeah, what's the town on the Liberian side? Is that Ganta or no?
Ganta. Yeah.
Is it Ganta?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you.
So there's I don't want to get this wrong because our team in Liberia will correct me, but there's 3 big cities. There is Monrovia, which is huge. Then there is Ganta, which I think is the second, and then there's Bonga. Our farm is in Bonga, or it's off of Bonga. So those are the 3 cities.
Yeah.
In an area basically, and I should show everybody where Liberia is. So here's Africa, and of course here's the United States. When you fly there, you can't fly directly, unfortunately, or it'll only be like a 6-hour flight, which isn't bad. You have to fly into France or into some other place up here, and then down. And then Liberia is one of the small countries here in the western part of Africa. So that's where Liberia is. Pan out again. It's about the size of Pennsylvania.
It would be the size of Western PA.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's smaller than Pennsylvania.
Definitely, it would be smaller. Smaller by population. There's 5 million people live there. I think we have 12 million in Pennsylvania.
Sounds all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the border of Liberia into Guinea.
Guinea.
So
yeah.
there's Guinea right there.
Yeah. So we were up. Yep, on that border.
Somewhere there. Going into
Somewhere in
Guinea.
there. Yep.
Yeah. So that's where we need the support right now. And again, we met this team through missionary work a long time ago, and this is just where it's taken us. So some more views of Africa.
More food. That's the way.
More
Is that
food?
that's the African pizza? That's what they said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like
So-
a quiche type.
It's like a quiche.
Very
It was good though. Here's the farm again. And there's the farm sign.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is welcome to Christian Counseling Associates Liberia Rice and Cassava Farm.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that sign was there.
Yeah. Emma put that up. Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's really something. That's it, folks. CCA Liberia. We were able to take you there.
yes, these are
Like I said, that's the weather there, like all the time. It is raining. It is great rice weather.
yeah.
Mm.
So there's
This is like a great example here because you see this here is what we got to get out of there.
yeah.
Tom, is
And
that
like
you?
this-
That's Tom and
That is
Ken
me.
right
Yes,
there.
it's me and Ken. But like this right here, that needs all pulled out of there, and to set the swamp. That's the next major part that needs to happen because can you imagine just trying to weed around this by hand? And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're trying to plant around this. It's good that it's sitting because now that it's all dead, it'll be easier to pull out now that it's begun the decomposition process a little bit. But this picture right here, I think, really does highlight just the great job the workers are doing there already. That they are able to cultivate this. If I drove past with a tractor, I'd just keep driving. I'd be like, no, like you got to work that up some more. But they're doing it, and they've got a pretty nice looking crop over there. For what they have to deal with and the methods that they're using. It was impressive.
Yeah, and I think and that's what I had no idea. Like you have to give the root systems a year to die before you can pull those up. So after we cleared that, you have to wait for that to be ready to pull up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's a great picture.
Some
Or the farm?
Or the farm.
So what you notice there too, it's interesting. They have to chase away the birds.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's that
Yes.
system that
They have that system where they're pulling on these, and they have pieces of metal attached to this rope, and they're pulling on it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the guys there. I mean, and it's these little like sparrows type, like these small birds, and they're there. They're on it. I was impressed. Emma and Ken were looking like, well, that's what we pay them to do. Like, why are you impressed?
Because you're like, why do we have to pay for somebody to chase away the birds? It seems like a little silly. But then he's down there, he's watching that, and that's tied to like pieces of metal throughout the farm. And he just sits there. As soon as that bird comes down, it's like clang, 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 and he yells, and then they fly away.
We don't see that kind of farming in the United States, but it's genius.
I mean, birds and deer. I mean, you're just hiring people to shoot them.
Yeah.
Like that's. I mean, deer are a big problem here. But here, they just go and they can do that and scare them all away. It's an impressive system. I'm not gonna lie.
I bet. Yeah. I bet. So we're learning about this. This is all great pictures of the farm, and the weather is really conducive to farming.
Okay, that's Tom next to an anthill.
Oh, that was the anthill. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Look at that giant anthill.
That's
that
stuff
is
that
an
needs to be
anthill?
removed.
Yeah.
That is an anthill. Yes,
Yeah.
this needs to be
Wow.
removed.
That's like 15 feet high.
Yes,
It's crazy.
yes. I'm 5'8". That's a lot taller than 5'8".
That's really something. So I hope you'll watch the YouTube version of this podcast and see these pictures. It's just amazing.
It's like untouched land for like 100, 200 years. I mean, that's what's back there.
Great natural resources, but undeveloped.
Undeveloped.
Right.
I guess that's a video.
Can we play this video?
It's like 10 seconds. I
seconds.
just did like a pan of the farm. I'm not a photographer, so I tried to.
This is up on the hill.
Yeah. There we
That's
are
good.
walking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send a team over once a year because we're limited by funds. It would be ideal to send a team every quarter because you'll have multiple harvests. And it's just consultation, and every time that we bring over, we can strategically plan more.
Right.
We meet with the team online weekly and manage the project, and it's progressing very well. But again, our limitation is the funding. We'll expend $40,000 this year, and that is what we're asking to be sustained. We could definitely scale that project with more funding, but we would like to start there to meet that funding need. And so, that's where we come to, this part of, how do I get involved in this? And I hope our donors, our listeners, are asking that question. Here's the Foundation for Christian Counseling website. So this is our nonprofit organization that you can donate to for a tax-deductible donation. And it's ffcc4u.com. So let that appear on the screen, but it's ffcc numeral 4 u.com. ffcc4u.com. And you go to the front page, and there's a lot of programs here that that we have. So this is just one of the programs that the foundation funds. But you can donate by hitting the donate button at the bottom of the page, and then it gives you an option to donate at whatever amount, and we have suggested amounts. You have an option to donate once or donate monthly. Ultimately, what we are hoping to do is we have an advocate level donation campaign that we could get all of our programs like Seeds of Freedom funded if we had 300 advocate donors. Advocate donors will commit to $125 monthly or $1,500 per year, and you could just simply donate that on a monthly basis by going on the website and following the steps. Very easy. Or you can make a one-time donation. And again, I would like to encourage, people are like, I just want to get involved. I want to help. Any level of donation would help.
Yep.
So, we want you to become a friend of the foundation, a friend of the people in Liberia, West Africa, and support this project. It'll really, really help. And Alex, Tom, you've really given us a great idea of how this can transform communities. That's the mission of the foundation, and that's the mission of Seeds of Freedom. We are, Alex, maybe this would be a good way to summarize our whole talk. Seeds of Freedom. What does it mean?
Well, it's a good title for the project, and Seeds of Freedom. It's freeing from this revolving state of poverty. Like, we want to have the church be a part of restoring this community and people being restored through this farm. I mean, people have gone there, and nothing has changed. Like, we're asking ourselves, like, it's a spirit of the time. In the 21st century, it's like, well, what are we doing? That moves the needle in like projects that we're doing. What is the church's role in doing that in the community? And that's what we've figured out a pathway to do that. And that's what we're saying is Seeds of Freedom, and people there are resonating with that. They are excited about it. They're doing it.
They're ready to be involved.
We just need to keep stepping forward in faith and pushing forward, and the church needs to take it on.
Yeah, so we have a community in Liberia, West Africa, a place called Bonga. Hundreds of people are ready to rise up and be involved in this, and we need a couple hundred people to rise up and be involved in it here. If you'll step forward and support this, and we hope that if you are listening, that you will do that, this partnership will plant seeds of freedom. You're planting a seed that will set somebody free to live the life that God has called them to live, and will build communities in a transformed way. So I hope you're excited as you listen. I definitely am. Guys, great work on this project. Just so blessed to be a part of it. And we invite you to be a part of it too, folks, listening at home. And so that's the Seeds of Freedom program. And Alex, it's your first time here on this side of the podcast. So, I want to invite you to pray for this project and everybody out there who is now contemplating becoming part of it and supporting it. Why don't you end us in prayer, please?
Bow your head with me. Dear Lord, we pray and thank you for this opportunity and this project, and we pray that you be with us as you continue, and we pray that you be with the people that are considering this, and we ask that they be a part of this, and we pray that not our will but your will be done in this project, and we pray for successful harvests and a successful program in Liberia that can lead towards restoration of lives towards you, and we ask for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Tom, Alex, thanks a lot for being with us, and folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.